So welcome to Mostly Satisfactory, which is a new series that follows my adventures and perhaps misadventures in learning how to play and hopefully grow and improve in Satisfactory, a automation builder game, which right now is really amazing me with snow. So a little review. This is the second time I've gone through this, and I did the first time I only got slightly further than I have so far in this one before I realized I should probably stop and start over so that I could capture the good, the bad, and the ugly in a video series. So that's where we are now, and so far, as you can see, I have the very barest essentials laid out. I mean, for a lot of you veterans out there, you might you might chuckle if I call this a base, but for now, this is my base. And as you can see, it is still FICSMAS. FICSMAS is still out there FICSMASing. So where we are so far is my current big task is to create the space elevator, and to do that there are a number of intermediate improvements or technologies I need to research, and to do that I gotta make a bunch of stuff. So that's what I'm doing right now. Obviously the name of the game is to fully automate this thing, and if you've seen any videos online or anything from anybody who is even remotely proficient at this game, you've seen acres and acres and acres of machines in nice neat rows manufacturing pretty much anything that can be manufactured in copious quantities. It's like something straight out of a Bugs Bunny cartoon, but we're obviously not. Oh boy. I didn't realize these things respawn. Really don't want to kill them if I can at all help it. So just hide behind the sill. So that's where we're at. And the story so far in this world is that I have hello. Okay. Works for me. 2 in a row. So, the story so far is that I only have access to the 3 resources at the moment, which is copper, iron, and limestone. And I've set up very rudimentary miners on those, and I'm able to produce those automatically, and in the case of copper and iron, I am able to smelt those automatically. Aside from that, everything is kind of still totally separate and isolated, and I don't remember what number I was on. This is the FICSMAS Advent calendar, and I think I'm on 4. Yep.
This data cartridge enables the second pair of FICSMAS Mantry branches to be unlocked. Fixit thought it was being very clever with the layout of this research tree. About as clever as you.
And number 5. I would go through the trouble of doing the hidden pictures, because I kind of enjoy that, but it's kind of boring to watch on camera. So we'll just go ahead and use the hints to get this stuff and get moving. I forgot to pick up number 4 here. Just in case I forgot to pick up those other ones. First 2. Okay. Oh, did I see it? No. Oh, okay. Basic FICSMAS skins.
Obviously, these FICSMAS decorations do not increase efficiency. In fact, they are a downgrade on every level. They can be found in the customizer.
Really? Where? Not really. I see different helmets. I see different trinkets. Whatever. So the like I was saying, we have those basic facilities for grabbing these resources. In the case of the metals, refining them, but that's it. I mean, we don't have any automated construction setup. Now, I do have a constructor built, but it's not really automated, right? I go in and manually select what I want it to make, and then I throw ingredients in, and then later I collect them. So that's the current state of things. Now, that is a good chunk ahead of where I was, where I had to do everything manually. So we are either semi-manual or semi-automated, depending on how you look at it. But we still have a long ways to go, and it's still a painful and slow process. But it's FICSMAS, so that helps. That helps with some of the in-between time. And if you're not familiar with FICSMAS, or you haven't seen the previous episodes of this is the in-game gift from the development team to kind of basically celebrate the holidays. So it looks like there are a number of things to discover and things to make, most of which come to me, or the knowledge of which come to me through Christmas gifts that are kind of dropped from on high. And they leave columns of sparkles to make it easier to find them. So, of course, I guess I'm not going to see many columns of sparkles with all the snow in the air. But anyhow, that's the point on that. I find it a bit of a distraction, but it's kind of cool, kind of neat. And but I have a lot to do with the basic game itself. So I think I will concentrate my efforts on the basic game itself. Now at this point I'm making the biofuel because at this point in the game the only fuel I really know how to use or can access is the burn stuff. And the only stuff to burn are the leaves and wood to be found in the local vegetation. However, you can convert that to biomass to use, and you can convert the biomass into a solid biofuel, and each conversion gives you greater efficiency. So since that's the only fuel I have access to, and by definition I have a finite supply of that stuff, I want to be as efficient with it as possible. So I'm taking the time to convert as much of it as I can into solid biofuel. And then keep these topped up. I'm actually doing pretty good in that department. So this should take care of the plates. Now I just need to make a bunch of concrete, and concrete is pretty laborious manually. So we will have La Machina do the concrete making for us. But to make concrete, we're going to need a lot of limestone. And this is the one resource we don't do any type of automated refining on. Right? We just pull it out of the earth, and then I have to go manually pick it up. And since there's 3 limestone to a concrete, I'm going to need to do this a lot because I need 200 concrete, and Just talking to you, I forgot where I was. I'm over here now. This is what I was trying to do all along. So throw that limestone in there, and I can go back to making solid biofuel. And as I commented to some extent in the last episode, the whole point of these automation games is to get going. There is a tutorial stage, and the tutorial stage usually involves some type of manual element because, we're not able to fully automate everything yet. And usually, besides teaching you the very basics of the game, the manual element is there to kind of punish you and convince you that doing things the manual way really, really bites. And it does. And that's your incentive for doing things the automated way. Which I'm all for. I'm all for it. I just don't have the technology to do it yet. So we're working our way toward that. The point of the game I'm at now, I guess I don't know enough to know if any of them are really optional, but by reading the description for the various upgrades and technologies I have access to research, they all seem pretty fundamental, right? Like base building, right? It's about building foundations and infrastructure to physically hold stuff. Last time we were able to build the technology to enable splitters and merging elements for conveyor belts. I mean, this is all also rudimentary stuff. I mean, it's rudimentary in that if you're going to do any type of real intermediate or advanced automation, these are basic building blocks that are must-haves, right? You can't have completely separate but parallel production chains over and over again, because that's just inefficient, right? That is a lot of alien protein. I mean, that's a lot. It's starting to...
This data cartridge enables the third pair of FICSMAS map tree branches to be unlocked. There is a chance you are doing this because you enjoy the seasonal event for some reason. There is also a chance you are simply doing this to annoy me. I wish for you to know that, in either case, you have disappointed me.
Well, I'm starting to warm up to this whole FICSMAS thing then. I don't know what I was going to say. Oh, no. Oh well. Oh well. So, I need a data cartridge, and I need candy canes and bows. Okay, how do I get candy canes and bows? This is... Okay, this tells me how to make them, but... Candy cane? Okay. So, how do I make these? Like these... I need 10 candy canes over here, and I need these 50 bush things. But I don't remember any... So, how do you make them? I don't remember seeing them here. Let's check. Nope. Not here. So, maybe they give you those? Like, you only get them on a certain day? Huh. Fix a coupon. Can this unlock something?
Research completed. Alien protein can now be turned into biomass or alien DNA capsules. In addition to being used for research, the invaluable alien lifeform data in these capsules can be traded for FICSIT coupons at the Awesome Sink. We guarantee the best capsule to coupon exchange rate anywhere on this planet.
Inflated pocket dimension. Plus 6 inventory slots. Well, plus 6 inventory slots sounds good. I still need to make a bunch more concrete, but I can do that manually, and I can start cranking out wire and cable toward getting those extra inventory slots. Because no matter what game you have, if you have an inventory, it's never big enough. I remember when I first started playing No Man's Sky, I quickly learned that inventory is a very precious commodity.
Ho ho, oh whatever.
And I think somebody posted a meme that they took the whole No Man's Sky marketing poster and changed it, so instead of saying No Man's Sky, it's like something like constantly full inventory or no inventory slots available, because that's very much how I felt when I was playing the game. And eventually you get to a point where inventory is not a problem, but to get to that point, especially to get to that point while your inventory is a problem, is a challenge, right? And that's something when it comes to these types of games, when it comes to any of these types of games, I do enjoy how do you make these things? I've got the data cartridge, but I don't have candy canes, and I don't have those bushy things, and it doesn't say anything here about how to make it. So when it comes to these types of games, you know, I like to play them. I can make the data cartridges, but I can't make the other stuff. And all the data cartridges are required is gifts. So what am I doing something wrong? Well, clearly I'm doing something wrong. I'm missing something. But in all these types of games, there's obviously in most default modes there's a survival element, right? There's a certain amount of pain and development that has to go on before you can reach later stages of the game and the content that you find there. And I dig that. I totally dig that. But one of the things that I don't dig is one, when they make that survival element hard to the point that it seems punitive, and when it becomes grindy. Now, what I'm doing now is kind of grindy, but I kind of understand why it's grindy. So I'm not having as much fun as I could have, but I understand why we're doing it, and you know, it'll get me to the sweet stuff, as opposed to, you know, if you ever play any of those MMOs. Oh.
By equipping this...
Okay. Didn't mean to cut her off, but it works. She's just going to say something snide anyway. So a lot of the MMOs, right? For level progression, there's elements or a need often to just go grind for experience. And
Yes, well done.
Sarcasm's dripping from that statement, but okay. And I know I know people who dig that, who dig the grind. What in the world was that? So I know people who dig the grind, right? That's cool. I'm just not a big fan of it, right? Hold on. I need to build it in the constructor. Duh. Well, there you go. So for the record, well, not even for the record, you can see I have a record that, yes, I'm a moron. In fact, I even think I vaguely remember them saying that you can't manually create this stuff. So I can create these tree branches, and then that will unlock some other recipes. And so I need a bunch of gifts. Throw these into La Machina. And that should get me going. Okay. Okay. Like I said, it's official. I admit I'm a moron. But what I was saying is there is we're talking about trying this element where they're essentially trading time, grinding at a task that's not difficult but laborious. So you're trading time for an achievement. Now, I'm not a big fan of that, right? That's not fun, right? Like, I mean, a lot of us have jobs that you go in and you do your time at the job and you get paid for it, okay? But it's not the same thing because you're actually paid money for it. So the money pays for the bills and food and rent, and that's kind of important. So, though I don't think it's a great system, I think that works. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about a game. We're talking about entertainment. We're talking about having fun. And doing the same thing over and over again so that I can get an achievement that'll enable me to have fun. Well, in the case of time, where you can't get that time back ever again, that's kind of like a pretty rotten deal, right? You have only so much time on this planet, and I'm squandering it before I can have fun.
This is ridiculous.
But in this case, the things that I'm doing, I'm actually having fun doing them. Oh, he's going to try to get me. Yeah. I hope he doesn't get up on this rock. Looked like he almost made it. So, and this isn't quite as grindy as some other stuff. I mean, some of the MMOs are pretty grindy.
A baby could have found this.
Well, aren't you a ray of sunshine? But yeah, so I don't count this as that same type of grindy. This is, like I said, there is a purpose to the tediousness. Speaking of tedious, how do I get this thing? I can... You know what? I should be able to crawl up this arm, but it is apparently slippery, and I can't stay on it. Can I jump and get this? Yep. Okay, good enough. Oh, well, you know, now that I can actually build FICSMAS stuff, I'm a little more interested in building FICSMAS stuff. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm having a blast, but it is... I feel more enjoyment with this than I was before. Not quite saying I'm hooked yet, but I'm digging it. Digging it a little bit. Yeah, it's the season, right? And I guess FICSMAS runs until January 18th, so got some time. And we're almost done with this first qualifier, I guess. But while that's going, I still haven't lost sight of expanding my inventory, so I guess I will have to, since I have to create the FICSMAS stuff in the constructor, I will go ahead and manually make my wires and cables, which aren't a big deal. They go by pretty fast, but I need 1,000 of them, which any way you slice it, that's a lot. I wonder if it's going to snow all day. I doubt it accumulates. I think it's just kind of a free atmospheric thing. Done. Sweet. Turn it in.
Candy canes are used to create several items. In this case, when combined with the Xeno Zapper, you will gain a piece of equipment perfect for use against anyone on my naughty list. Like whoever hard-coded and black-boxed this event.
So now I need 10 candy canes to unlock this thing. So, candy cane. 3 gifts. So I need 30 gifts, right? Okay. Okay. I've forgotten how to split these. I mean, I remembered how to cut them in half each time, but that gets pretty monotonous, so there we go. You know, one of the things to bear in mind about difficulty, right, and earning achievements in games versus, just grinding for them. Developers don't want you to finish the game in 5 minutes, right? And you don't want to finish the game in 5 minutes. You want to enjoy it. You want to savor it. Well, I mean, there's a handful of you out there who do want to finish the game in 5 minutes, but I'm not speaking to you. I'm speaking to everyone else. The developers, of course, do things like, repetitive, grindy type quests or type of limitations that slow you down because they're trying to curate your experience in the game. And the trick with that is that when you think about these guys, they wrote the game, right? Many of them have been working on the game for 6, 8, 10, 12, 16 hours a day for weeks, months, possibly years. And
a reminder that human creativity does have its limits, considering their obsessive insistence on continuing to make slightly different versions of every FICSMAS song ever imagined.
So these people work on the game a lot for a long time. And invariably, I'm sure they play it a lot, for testing, for fun, whatever. But here's the thing. They get really, really good at it. And sometimes they kind of lose sight of that relative skill that they have compared to the average consumer. Because most of us don't have an opportunity to play that same game all day, every day, for months and months and months at a time. So they're really, really good at it. Maybe we might be pretty decent at it. But when they say, well, that's too easy, let's throw in something to slow folks down.
FICSMAS bows can be crafted from gifts in the constructor and can be combined with candy canes to make the candy cane decoration. Unfortunately for us both, this is only the first of several decorations, and you have been encouraged to spend your time and effort on these precision-engineered fleeting moments of joy.
Yeah. So they're biased, right? They're making a game mechanic that's really tuned to their perception of what's easy or hard. And for the consumer on the street, maybe it works. Maybe it's an accurate assessment. But I doubt it is. I doubt, for some people, it could turn them off from the game. One of the things I've always been annoyed at, Minecraft's a good example of this, is how they give you a limited number of difficulty settings, right? So in the case of Minecraft, you have normal and easy. They're basically the same, except that creatures have fewer hit points, or they do less damage, right? But then when you go to peaceful, okay, well, we just completely get rid of monsters. All the hostile mobs are gone. Okay. But, for a long time, the only way you're going to get bone meal is from bones. And if there's no skeletons, you don't get bones. So you can't get bone meal. Right? So they put in a composter, and now you can throw in vegetation and do it. But you kind of see where it's these, when you have a one-size-fits-all type of difficulty system, you make the sweeping changes. So, like, hardcore is another example, right? Hardcore is now everything is harder, right? So the creatures have more hit points, they hit harder, and so on and so on. And if you die, you're out. That's it. Game over. Now, how come I don't have the option of, say, playing hardcore, right? So if I die, the game's over. But it's at the normal difficulty level, right? So they're not necessarily harder to kill. They don't hit any harder. It's just that it's basically the normal game. I just don't want to die, right? Or let's see what we get.
Milestone reached. Several new structures are now available for improving factory organization. Foundations provide a building grid, which makes it easier to manage placement of any structure. In the event that you are experiencing amnesia for all events prior to planetfall, be reassured that memories of beloved humans and/or animals would have only been distractions from your important mission.
So another one I think about is like let's say like you hate creepers, like I do, right? So you want to play the game. I want the zombies. I want the skeletons. I want Endermen. I want the wither skeletons, hoglins. I want all that stuff. I just don't want creepers. Well, in vanilla, the only way I'm going to get rid of creepers is to turn off all mobs, go into peaceful. But then I lose everything, right? So, this is kind of a problem where there's no granular control. And when you play games where you have only a few difficulty settings, right? So you might start with normal, and you find out that, well, it's a little too hard. And so you go down to easy, and that's ridiculously easy. And you're like, well, I can't throttle this somewhere in between, right? Or maybe normal is like super easy for you. You've gotten good at it, so you want to go the next step up. So you go to hard, and it's ridiculously hard, right? And you're like, wow, can't I ease into this? And again, I think it's the bias of the guys who are doing this stuff every day, all day. For them, maybe the hard version is easy. They've lost sight of what it was like to be a new player learning this stuff. Anyway, that was probably the only. Well, that was. I won't guarantee it's the only grandpa moment, but that was a grandpa moment. But there you go. If you're watching this, you're probably interested in games, and you've probably heard from time to time you've heard news stories or read articles where psychologists will talk about the psychological hazards of game playing. And it's not just game playing. I mean, they'll post it in that because, people like to demonize games or movies or books or music, right? And the point is that whatever we're talking about, there's somebody out there who takes it too far and they have a problem and it messes up their life and possibly the lives of those around them. And then that becomes the poster child for the rest of us who don't have a problem. Not cool, right? But that's not just games and music and everything. It's like anything, right? We have people who are addicted to all sorts of weird stuff. There's the ones, of course, you'll see at rehabilitation centers. They're addicted to drugs or caffeine or alcohol or smoking, whatever. Then there's the ones you don't hear about, like the people who are addicted to books, and not just reading books, but having books. Like you go into their house and there's bookshelves upon bookshelves upon bookshelves. You're like, oh wow, that's impressive. You read all those books? It's like, no. These 2 sets of bookshelves that are huge I have read, and these other 4 I've bought the books and I plan to read someday. Might have a problem, right? I know my mom and my dad, which surprised me, in separate related, they had this thing where they were out there collecting these little, I don't know, digital. I'm not even digital. They're just like knickknacks, right? Franklin Mint used to put a bunch of them out, and they're like, oh, there's a limited number, and it's a collector's item, and if you get the whole set, it'll be worth a lot of money someday. Really? And so they get obsessed with like collecting all this stuff, and of course, because it seems weird to me, how obsessive they're getting about it. And when I ask them about it, they're like, they justify it by, oh, it's going to be worth a lot of money someday. Okay, but the thing about value is value's in the eye of the beholder.
Not worth the effort.
Well, that's an interesting segue. yeah, maybe it'll be worth more money someday, but they're making it sound like, they're grabbing it today because tomorrow it'll be like one of Picasso's paintings and worth several million. No. I mean, even if you go on to eBay and look at stuff that's like came out 40 years ago, the whole set of whatever. I think it was Taco Bell or somebody had put out a series of Looney Tunes drink glasses, right? And I think there's like 10 or 12 different glasses, and people go, oh well, you get a whole set, it's really valuable. Yeah, I looked online out of curiosity, and I think some people are selling a whole set for $50. Well, most of them aren't selling a full set for $50, and that guy who's holding out, it's $50 to have 12 glasses for 40 or 50 years before they're worth $50. And it's not the type of thing that you're going to base a retirement on, right? So, yeah, that value's pretty bizarre. Another example of that is if you watch TV, if you watch like CNN or something, at some point, especially around election time, they start having these commercials about gold. Investments in gold, buying gold. Some of them are a little more flexible and talk about precious metals, but in the end, it's all about gold. And they talk about, in uncertain times, the best investment you can make is in gold. Well, why is that? Because they're like, if the economy goes down the sewer and people are out, civilization falls apart, gold is going to be it for you. No. No. Let me just state, when we're talking about value, there's a intrinsic value, right? This is something that's worth something for because of the nature of the thing. And then there's perceived value, which is this thing has value because somebody thinks it's valuable, regardless of any other factors. And what I'm talking about is this. Let's say, I don't know, a big asteroid comes in and we do another dinosaur extinction event, right? So, but this time it's humans. And so it's nuclear winter and the civilization's fallen. There's no electricity. There's no supermarkets. There's no roads. Well, I'm telling you, you could be sitting on Fort Knox, right? You could have literally rooms full of gold. What are you going to do with that? It's not going to keep you warm at night. You can't burn it as fuel. You can't eat it. It's not going to cure any type of illness you have. The intrinsic value of gold is kind of zero, right? It's a shiny, beautiful metal, and it is a fantastic electrical conductor. But again, chances are pretty good that you're not building circuit boards in an event like that. You're just trying to survive, trying to eat. So gold isn't where it's at. What you would want in that type of situation is food, water, medicine, clothes, fuel, shelter, and possibly firearms. Because, if you have those things, somebody with firearms is going to come by and try to take them from you. And if you don't have those things, the firearms will allow you to go take them from somebody else. But you run around big stacks of shiny gold metal. Yeah, it's not going to get you anything, right? So that's the difference between intrinsic value, food, medicine, guns, and perceived value, people thinking their gold's worth something. So if I build a second constructor, I can construct two different things at the same time. Still semi-automated, mostly manual, but it's gonna make me more capable. I need some concrete to make another power pole. Having power poles max out with only 4 electrical connections is an interesting mechanic. Kind of makes routing power into a mini puzzle game all on its own. How did I screw this up? So they talk about spaghetti in terms of conveyor belts. I see a bigger and quicker risk spaghetti with electrical connections.
The red and blue FICSMAS ornaments are produced from gifts, unsurprisingly, but this time in the smelter. Now I hope you listen to that, because I will not repeat it no matter how confusing this all is. Blame the original Fix-It Fun engineers. Most of them ended up in jail for various reasons. But do not worry, the event has since been vetted by the second generation of Fix-It Fun engineers, who were only sued.
So I need to make the ornaments. I'm gonna have to use smelters. And the problem we kind of run into, I mean, I got constructors going, I've got miners going, I've got smelters going, and I have 2 biomass burners. And the cool thing about biomass is burners, if they're not, they ramp up or ramp down to take care of the demand at the moment, which is cool. They never completely turn off, so if I turn all the machines off, they'll still be in a standby mode, which does use a little energy, but unless I throw the circuit breaker. But still, that's pretty useful. But then there's the other side of it, which is they can only ramp up to a certain point, at which point there's too much load, and they'll throw the breaker, and at that point I'll have to build another biomass burner. And like I said, I'm kind of being cautious here because there's a finite amount of fuel around me. I don't know how I don't know how much of a limitation that'll be. Because I don't know enough about the game yet. I'm starting to kind of get an idea, but I don't know. And that's kind of like going back to what I was saying a minute ago about perceived value. Like in a survival situation, which this is, you find something and you don't know its value, so you can't assume that you can just get rid of it. And games are particularly interesting there because why would they even put it in the game unless it has some type of value? And it might be that it has value. It might be very, very important, but it might be only at a certain point in the game for a very specific purpose, and you don't need a lot. You just need like one, and you're good to go. But you don't know that until you go a ways through the game to get to that point and make that realization or learn it, right? Until then, you might have a whole stack of that stuff. Which kind of brings me back to Minecraft and the poisonous potato, because everything in Minecraft, everything in vanilla Minecraft has a purpose except the poisonous potato. That thing serves no purpose. You can't compost it. You can certainly eat it, I guess, but it'll screw you up. Can't build anything out of it. I always thought it would be a fantastic potion ingredient, right? Like that's how you make poisons. But no, it doesn't do that. So it's essentially a doorstop. But but like I said, normally when you play games, they say you find something or you can create something, even if you don't immediately know what you can use it for. It's there. It's there for a purpose. Somebody had to go out of their way to write lines of code to make that thing exist. So presumably they wrote lines of code to make it do something, and it's just a matter of time until you figure out what it is. Now, this is really showing my age, and most of you might not even know what I'm talking about, but there was a time, a long time ago, where we didn't really have adventure games like we have them now. And adventure games were really limited to text adventures, right? And what I mean by that is like the classic Infocom games like Zork, right? Which is they'll tell you, hey, you're in a forest clearing and there's a path leading to the south, and what do you do? And you type in what you want to do. And in those games, it was always kind of funny because it would tell you that, like, this is where you're at, and there's entrance to the north or south, and then it would tell you some other piece of information, and because that other piece of information was separate, you knew that it was important. Like, you're on the side of the house, and there's a window, and it's open. Right? If it didn't, or you come back later and you say the window's closed. You're like, well, it was open before, now it's closed. And they went out of their way to specifically tell me there's a window there. I mean, it's the side of a house. You can imply there's a window there. This must be important, right? And you go in and you find like a paper bag. Well, paper bag's pretty generic, and but that paper bag at some point is going to be an incredibly useful item, and you're going to need it, which then leads to the same problem I was talking about before, which is you don't know the intrinsic value of the stuff you find, so you kind of go into hoarder mode, right? If I know everything has value, but I don't know what that value is, then when I run into stuff and I don't immediately know what to do with it, I stash it, because sooner or later I will know what I need to do with it, and hopefully I'll have it around, because then you also get into the situation where the game gives you like one whatchamacallit, and that's the thing you need to defeat the dragon at the end of the game, but they give you the one and you didn't know what to do with it, so you threw it over a cliff. Now it's gone forever. And then you find out at the end, they go, okay, now just whip out the whatchamacallit and kill the dragon. And you're like, I threw it away. And there's no way to get another one. So I'm up a creek without a paddle. They don't normally do that in game design anymore, but trust me, they used to in the old days. Happened a lot. And that's just because it was the early years. We were still figuring our way through the industry and software development and understanding users and coding in, all the different conditionals and loops necessary to cover whatever actions a player might run. We're much better at it now than we used to be, but that doesn't mean that we still don't program bugs, right? If you're in software biz, well, even as a consumer, right? Even Microsoft applications, you use an Outlook or something and it does something wacky. Well, if you're a consumer and you found a bug like that, somebody kind of made a mistake. They didn't anticipate what your needs would be. They didn't fully foresee what you might want to do with it, and so they didn't really check it or test for it, and lo and behold, you actually are doing what you need to do with it, and he found out the hard way. And then, of course, somebody will tell him about it, and they'll fix it, and it'll be in a patch, and the whole process is pretty quick and easy. But oh man, even in the early days of the internet, you didn't get your product updates through the internet. So whenever you found a bug, a real bona fide bug, to get it into the hands of the users, we had to really test the snot out of it to make sure it really was a good fix, wasn't going to cause more problems. And then they had to, basically make media, stamp out floppy disks or CDs or whatever, and physically get those things to customers. And so it was an incredibly expensive proposition. So back in those days, they had whole teams of testers. I was on those teams to try to make sure they got it as close to bug proof as they could before it left the first time, right? But nowadays, you can find a bug at 4 o'clock. I hear a slug. Or no, or is it the music? Or it's a slug. Yep. They can find a bug at 4 o'clock. They could have somebody immediately try to come up with a fix. And by midnight, they could have a tested fix out on the servers and uploading to everybody's computers. And in some cases, consumers might not ever know there was ever a problem. Right? It's a very different world we live in. But in some ways, it's kind of allowed us to be sloppy. My friend Eric, who passed on, we used to have conversations like this a lot. And another slug. And we went from trying to make it as good as we could possibly make it, right? Because that would save a lot of money and embarrassment and stuff, to making it good enough. Right? And in business, that is a thing. Good enough is Deuterium?
Unknown metal collected. This metallic element is showing properties similar to those in Group 11 on the periodic table, such as high conductivity and malleability. Research it in the MAM to establish classification and potential application.
Pretty shiny metal. Yeah, so a lot of times in business, the idea is, too far. To try to get it as close to perfect as you can, that costs extra time, it costs extra money, it costs extra effort. And so that's not the goal, right? The goal is to try to optimize and get it good enough so that we don't have to pour in extra time and effort and money into it. And, they do that in the name of efficiency, but that's just how the modern world works, right? Everything kind of comes down to an equation. Wow, did I just go through the rock? Yeah, I kind of did. And it's you can see it too with like manufacturing defects or something, right? So the car company or somebody, they make something, they know there's a problem, but they don't think it's a big problem. But they have guys who do the computations and say, well, even if it causes somebody to die and they sue us for $400 million, the way we have it now, we would still come out ahead monetarily. Yeah, I would hope that they had a higher bar than that, but that's often how companies make decisions.
The metal has been named Deuterium after FICSIT's greatest CEO, Katerina Parks. It has been added as a viable alternative to gold in industrial applications, specifically in advanced electronics due to its superconductivity, malleability, and corrosion resistance.
So you see, that makes it sound like it's valuable, but again, if you're starving, none of those properties are particularly useful. Perceived value, intrinsic value. One time I got called into jury duty, and I got dismissed from as a potential juror because some guy with some special edition, limited edition, super rare production BMW was suing somebody else because they had a scratch on it or something, and they can know it was no longer as valuable as a collector's edition. And they were asking me about value, right? And I pointed out, I says, well, when it comes right down to it, I understand that this is a special edition. There's only a handful of them made. The guy paid a crazy amount of money for it. But in the end, it's a car. So it takes you from point A to point B. And in the course of driving a car around the city, going from point A to point B, things happen, right? But in the end, it's a car. Just like my little, at the time, Toyota Corolla. Right? Which is like a fraction of the value. But again, it's a car. You can carry 4 people, take them from point A to point B. And of course, the I don't want to call him the prosecutor, the plaintiff. Is it the plaintiff? Yeah, the plaintiff. His lawyer was all over that. He was like, oh, yeah, that's great. And the defendant's lawyer said, you can go. Thank you. Have a nice day. Now, there you go. But quite frankly, I think the only people who really... Man, those alien proteins really give you a lot of fuel. I think they're too valuable to be used for others as other stuff to be used as fuel. But wow. I think the only people who worry about that weird perception of value are rich people. Right? I mean, I get it. Picasso was a famous and important painter, and now he's dead, so he can't make any new ones, and his paintings are worth millions. But, whether you put a Picasso on my wall or you put, some painting I got at Target on my wall, to me, whatever. I would probably prefer the Target one because it probably is a picture of something I find more pleasing. But there you go. But a rich guy, a really rich guy who can afford the Picasso, it would be a huge deal to him. In fact, I bet you a lot of those guys, they would get the Picasso. They don't even really appreciate the Picasso, right? It's just that it is a Picasso, and it is obviously therefore very expensive, and so hanging on the wall, even if they think it's ugly, is a point of pride to kind of show people, look how rich I am. Like the idiot who bought a banana for $6 million and then ate it. But anyway, that I kind of got off on a track here, but we are further along than we were before, and so when we look around here, I'm not much further along in terms of production capability. I'm still semi-automated or semi-manual, depending on how you want to look at it. But I'm not going after that. But we are further along. We can now build foundations and stuff, which I'll need to think about how I want to work that out. So we did make progress, and I did get past the idiot stage and realized that I need constructors to make the FICSMAS stuff. So we are unblocked there, and I have plenty of material to work with and things to build. And plus, we are still in the middle of creating a ridiculous amount of cable and wire for, wire than cable to expand my inventory, which is becoming a bigger and bigger issue. Probably wouldn't be as much of an issue except for FICSMAS, but the goal here is not to be done with this in 15 minutes, but to kind of, go on the journey. Enjoy the road trip. The destination's important, but the trip itself is more important. Now, what am I going to do next time? Well, probably more of this.
Milestone reached. Conveyor belts can now merge, split, and lift to save space and enhance the productivity of your factory. FICSIT encourages you to consider investing in verticality when it comes to factory logistics. If you feel stressed by this complexity, imagine yourself on the shore of a vast and calm ocean. Breathe in. Visualize all the people relying on you. The sea is made of billions of faces, each staring at you with hope and tears in their eyes. Breathe out. Feel refreshed and focused on your duties.
His big sister's watching. Corporate guilt. Or corporations inflicting guilt.
Humans tend to catch colds during the winter. It would seem that this does not apply to you, but considering your tendencies, FICSIT has seen fit to provide a medicinal inhaler just in case.
Okay. Got an emergency inhaler. Good. Yeah, this ladder can be a pain. So, with all that said, I think it's time to bid you adieu. And I hope this finds you and yours in good health, good spirits, and perhaps a touch of good fortune. So until next time, cheers.